only two reasons why people truly fall in love with you, and neither of them have anything to do with what you look like, what you own, or what you post online. It may feel surprising, perhaps even disappointing at first, but what pulls someone toward you, what makes them stay, grow, and love you, is far more subtle and more sacred. People fall in love with the energy you carry and with how they feel about themselves when they are with you. The image, the words, the charm, they fade, but presence, emotional safety, and the quiet power of self-mastery, they remain. And in that silence, love grows, not as a fire, but as a steady flame. Let us walk this path of understanding, not just to be loved, but to become love itself. When we speak of love, especially the love that draws two people together, most of the world still believes it is about what you do, what you say, or what you show. But those who have truly looked within understand something much deeper. The energy you carry into every room is silently speaking before you ever open your mouth. It's not the smile on your face or the kindness of your words that people first fall in love with. It's the quiet, often invisible signal of your nervous system, the frequency of your presence, the steadiness or chaos that lingers in your posture, your gaze, your breath. You could be dressed immaculately, surrounded by success, or praised by many. But if your energy is restless, anxious, or deeply insecure, people feel it long before they understand it. They won't always be able to name what it is that makes them uneasy or disinterested. They'll just know something doesn't feel right. Likewise, someone may be simple, quiet, and not conventionally attractive. But when they carry a certain inner peace, a grounded clarity, and a warm stillness, people find themselves drawn to them without explanation. That is not accident. It is resonance. It is nature responding to balance. Neuroscience has shown us that our brain is wired to scan the environment for safety. This happens not just in physical spaces but also in relationships. Your subconscious is constantly reading micro signals in others, their tone of voice, the dilation of their pupils, the pace of their breath, the stiffness of their jaw. These signals speak volumes about their internal state. So when someone meets you, what their nervous system is really asking is, do I feel safe near this person? Can I relax here? Or is there hidden tension? This is why we say that energy introduces you before words do. Emotional energy, regulated by your nervous system, becomes the language through which others understand you. And in relationships, it is often the single most important factor. People don't just fall in love with what they see, they fall in love with what they sense. A woman once came to the Shaolin temple. She said, "Master, I feel invisible to others. I do everything right. I dress well, I speak kindly, I stay humble, but I don't feel seen. People look past me." I asked her to stand still, to breathe, and to close her eyes. After a few moments, I asked her what she felt. She replied, "Tension, my chest feels tight." I said, "That tension is what others feel before they see your kindness. It is the silent voice speaking louder than your words. Learn to relax that voice." Over time, she began to meditate, walk slowly, and sit in stillness. Her posture changed. Her voice dropped into a softer, slower rhythm, and something fascinating happened. People began to gravitate toward her. Not because she became someone else, but because she began to carry herself with peace instead of striving. That peace became magnetic. From a psychological view, people are naturally attracted to those who help regulate their emotional state. We are drawn to those who soothe our anxiety, not those who mirror it. This is why we sometimes fall for someone and later can't explain why. It wasn't logic, it was regulation. Their presence calms something in us. And this is what most don't realize: your emotional baseline becomes your relational offering. If you live in anxiety, chaos, or fear, that becomes the frequency you offer others. But if you cultivate serenity, presence, and self-respect, that becomes your true beauty, one that doesn't age, doesn't wear out, and doesn't need validation to shine. In Eastern philosophy, we are taught that every person carries a field, what some traditions call chi, or life force. This field is not merely metaphorical, it is sensed, felt, and interpreted through the body. When your chi is steady, your presence is steady, and a steady presence is what others trust. This is why, in times of crisis, people turn to those who do not panic. In love, it is no different. The heart leans into steadiness. It doesn't fall for excitement as much as it falls for peace. Consider a garden. The flowers bloom not because the gardener pulls on them, but because the environment, light, soil, water, is right. Likewise, love blooms where the emotional climate is safe, grounded, and spacious. Your energy is that climate, and people fall in love where they feel they can grow without fear. Now let us move deeper into the second reason people fall in love with you. It is not enough to say that people are drawn to your energy. That is the first gate. The second is how they feel about themselves when they are in your presence. This might seem subtle, but it is everything. People do not fall in love with you simply because you are kind, beautiful, or even wise. They fall in love with how those traits make them feel about who they are when they're with you. Love, in this sense, is not an admiration. It is a reflection. They see in you a mirror that shows them their better self, their truer self, their lighter self. If a man feels more alive, more seen, more safe when he's around you, he will interpret that as love. If a woman feels more respected, more beautiful, more inspired in your company, she will associate those feelings with you. The key here is this: it is not about what you do to impress others, but about how present you are to them. Presence is what allows others to unfold. Presence is what allows others to feel enough. And presence cannot be faked. There is a concept in modern neurobiology called co-regulation. It means that one nervous system can calm or elevate another simply through proximity and empathy. When someone is emotionally dysregulated, anxious, overwhelmed, fearful, and they are near a person who is calm, breathing slowly, and grounded, their own physiology begins to align with that calm. This is not theory, it's physical. Heart rate, blood pressure, cortisol levels, they shift in response to connection. This is why, when a child cries, the mother often doesn't need to say much. She simply holds them. Her calm heartbeat, her steady breath, it tells the child's body, "You are safe." And the crying eases. In adults, the pattern is the same. We are looking for those who offer us emotional safety, not control, not excitement, not perfection, safety. Because safety allows the heart to open. So now, let us look at you, not just as a person, but as a mirror. When someone is with you, what do they feel about themselves? Do they feel judged, compared, hurried? Or do they feel like they can breathe again? Do they feel seen without having to perform? Do they feel more aligned with their truth? A young man once asked me why his relationships always ended after a few months. He said, "I give them everything. I buy flowers, I take them out, I compliment them every day. But still, they leave." I asked him, "Do you know how to sit in silence with someone?" He looked confused. "What do you mean?" I replied, "Without trying to impress, without trying to fix or entertain. Just to be fully with them. No agenda, just awareness." He shook his head. "That makes me nervous," he admitted. I told him, "That nervousness is not about them. It's about you. Until you learn to sit with yourself without fear, you cannot offer that peace to anyone else." So he began the practice. Not of dating, but of being alone without distraction. No phone, no noise, no proving. At first it was unbearable. Then slowly the stillness became familiar, then comforting, then joyful. And from that stillness, a new relationship emerged. One where the woman said to him, "I don't know why, but I feel calm around you. Like I can finally take off the mask." That was the beginning of real love. In this way, we return again to the wisdom of the East. Know yourself, and you will know others. The relationship you have with others is always a reflection of the relationship you have with yourself. If you are harsh with your own emotions, you will unconsciously be harsh with theirs. If you are impatient with your inner wounds, you will be impatient with theirs. But if you have met your own pain with kindness, your presence becomes a safe place for others to do the same. This is not romantic poetry. It is psychology. When someone feels safe to be themselves with you, they fall in love. Not with an ideal, not with a fantasy, but with the grounded reality that you make space for their authentic self. And so, the two reasons people fall in love are not outward, they are deeply inward. First, they fall in love with the way your energy interacts with theirs. Second, they fall in love with how they feel about themselves in your presence. These are the roots of lasting connection, not attraction based on need, but resonance based on truth. And the beauty of this understanding is that it doesn't require perfection. It requires presence. It doesn't demand charm. It demands honesty. It is not about changing yourself to be loved. It is about returning to who you already are beneath the noise. The question is not, how can I make someone love me? The question is, how can I become so at peace with myself that the others feel free to love themselves when they're with me? This is the path. It is not a trick. It is not a tactic. It is a way of being. And it begins now in this breath, in the quiet between words, in the awareness of your own energy, your own presence. Stay there. Let that be enough. Because in that stillness, the heart begins to remember what love truly feels like. Not excitement, not drama, but peace. And in peace, everything begins to bloom. Emotional availability is often spoken about in modern culture as if it is a performative act. Something you express through constant communication, vulnerable conversations, or grand gestures. But true emotional availability is not loud. It is not about how openly you express emotions in words. It is about how present you are with emotions, yours and others, without being controlled by them. It is rooted not in expression, but in self-mastery. And that is where many become confused, especially in relationships that seek depth. To be emotionally available is not simply to talk about your feelings. Anyone can speak of pain or joy. But can you sit with those feelings without reacting? Can you remain calm when the other person is struggling? Not because you're suppressing your response, but because you've trained yourself to be the container instead of the storm. This is emotional maturity. This is availability, not of words, but of space. Eastern wisdom teaches us that emotions are like clouds. They move through the sky of your awareness. They are not permanent, and they are not personal. But when we become identified with them, when we say, I am angry, instead of, I feel anger, we confuse the weather for the sky. Emotional availability requires that we don't get caught in the clouds. It requires that we remain the sky. Now let us look at this through the lens of neuroscience and physiology. The human brain processes emotional pain in much the same regions as physical pain. This is why emotional reactivity feels urgent, overwhelming, and at times even debilitating. When you feel triggered by a partner's silence or disapproval, your body isn't just annoyed, it is interpreting a threat. Your amygdala, the brain's fear center, sounds the alarm. Your heart rate rises. Your muscles tighten. And unless you've trained your awareness to intervene, your reaction becomes automatic, often defensive, aggressive, or avoidant. So what does self-mastery have to do with this? Everything. Self-mastery is the art of pausing between stimulus and response. It is the ability to notice the reaction rising within you, and to choose presence instead of projection. That pause, often just a breath, is the space where love is either deepened or destroyed. There is a practice we follow in the Shaolin tradition called sitting with fire. It is a meditative approach in which you do not try to escape discomfort. You simply sit with it, like you would sit with a small fire, neither touching it nor running from it. The idea is simple. By sitting still with what is unpleasant, you train your nervous system to remain calm in the presence of emotional heat. Over time, what used to ignite you no longer controls you. And this changes your relationships profoundly. You become someone who can stay steady in emotional turbulence. You become emotionally available not because you speak perfectly, but because you remain open and steady in moments when others would shut down or explode. A woman once shared with me a story about her partner who had grown up in a chaotic home. He was gentle, loving, and expressive until conflict arose. Then he would shut down entirely, retreat into silence, sometimes for days. She tried everything, texting, reasoning, even giving space. But nothing helped. It's like he disappears, she said. He says he loves me, but when I need him emotionally, he vanishes. I asked her gently, has he learned to stay with his own discomfort? Or does he flee it the way he flees you in those moments? This is the root. You cannot offer others emotional presence if you've never practiced emotional discipline with yourself. If you run from your own sadness, you will run from theirs. If you avoid your own anger, you will shut down in the face of theirs. If you are ashamed of your vulnerability, you will become cold when they are soft. So then, emotional availability is not a doorway that opens outward. It is an inner gate. And that gate is opened through training. You must train yourself, gently but consistently, to remain with your own emotions. Not to fix, suppress, or analyze, but to witness them, to breathe through them, to allow them to pass like waves. This is what it means to hold space. And when you can hold space for yourself, you can hold it for another. Psychologists speak of emotional attunement, the ability to notice, reflect, and respond to another's emotional state with sensitivity. But attunement is impossible if your own emotions rule you. You cannot notice another's sorrow if you are consumed by your own internal chaos. You cannot soothe their fear if you have never calmed your own. Emotional availability, therefore, is a natural byproduct of inner balance. I recall an old man who once visited the temple. His wife had died the year before, and he came seeking peace. During a conversation, he said something I never forgot. For 40 years, he said, I thought I was emotionally present. I worked hard, I stayed faithful, I tried to make her happy. But now that she is gone, I realize I never learned how to be still with her sadness. I always tried to fix her pain, to cheer her up. But I never just sat and listened. I was so afraid of her sorrow that I couldn't bear to look at it. This is the lesson. Emotional availability is not about solving or impressing. It is about presence. The willingness to sit beside someone in their storm, not as a rescuer, not as a judge, but simply as a steady presence. That is what heals. That is what deepens love. In relationships, we often confuse attention with availability. Just because someone responds to your messages quickly, compliments you often, or showers you with affection, doesn't mean they are emotionally available. Real availability is revealed when things get hard, when silence creeps in, when disappointment surfaces, when fears arise. In those moments, the emotionally immature will withdraw, defend, or attack. But the emotionally mature will stay. They will breathe. They will listen. They will hold the space for what is real. But how do you cultivate this maturity? Begin with the body. Your breath, posture, and tone of voice are not secondary. They are your foundation. When your breath is shallow, your awareness is limited. When your shoulders are tense, your words are reactive. When your tone is sharp, your energy becomes aggressive even if your words are kind. So train the body first. Practice sitting in silence every day. Observe your breath without judgment. Let it slow. When tension rises, do not fight it. Greet it with awareness. This is not merely meditation. It is relationship training. Because the stillness you practice alone is the stillness you bring into love. Then move to the mind. Watch the stories you tell yourself in moments of conflict. The ego will always craft narratives. She's ungrateful. He doesn't care. I always get hurt. But these are not truths. They are reflexes. The emotionally available person learns to interrupt these reflexes. Instead of asking, what is wrong with them? Ask, what is this moment revealing about me? That shift transforms conflict into a mirror, not a weapon. Then, finally, practice compassion. Not the kind that pities, but the kind that understands. Every person you meet carries unseen wounds. Every sharp word, every withdrawal, every overreaction. These are not just bad habits. They are coping mechanisms formed in the fires of childhood, trauma, and insecurity. Emotional availability means recognizing this, not to excuse harmful behavior, but to understand its roots. And in that understanding, you become less reactive, more curious, more compassionate. This is the emotional landscape where love can grow. One evening, during a walking meditation, I noticed a young couple sitting by the lotus pond. The woman was crying quietly, and the man was sitting beside her, not touching, not speaking, just sitting. After some time, she leaned into him, and he wrapped his arm around her. Later, I asked him, "What did you say to her?" He replied, "Nothing. I've learned that sometimes words just get in the way. I used to try and fix her tears. Now I just sit with her until they dry themselves." That is the wisdom of presence. That is emotional availability. So many chase love hoping it will fix them, complete them, or rescue them from loneliness. But love is not a savior. Love is a sacred space, and emotional availability is the doorway. It is not granted by luck, and it is not found in others. It is forged slowly and deliberately through inner work, conscious breath, and silent strength. We live in a world that rewards quick responses, witty comebacks, and constant stimulation. But love does not thrive in noise. It blooms in quiet attention. It grows in the pause between reaction and response. And the one who masters that pause becomes not just lovable, but loving. So when you find yourself in the presence of someone you care for, and tension arises, do not rush to speak. Do not flee or fight. Return to your breath, return to stillness. Ask yourself, can I remain open even now? And if the answer is yes, even for a few seconds, you have taken a step toward becoming emotionally available. This is not a skill that will win applause. It is not dramatic or visible, but it is the foundation of every meaningful relationship you will ever have. The strength to stay present with discomfort. The softness to stay open in the face of fear. The wisdom to remain still in the storm. And it is this, the invisible discipline of the heart, that makes love real and makes you ready to receive it. In the stillness of the human spirit, one truth becomes increasingly evident. The energy you carry either invites others in or causes them to pull away. It is not always your words, your appearance, or your accomplishments that draw people toward you, but rather something more subtle and powerful. The quality of your inner energy, your energy shaped by your thoughts, your emotions, your level of self-awareness, and your presence, is the invisible force that surrounds you. It enters the room before you speak and lingers long after you've gone. This energy either nourishes the hearts of others or burdens them. And in relationships, this unseen force often determines whether people fall in love with you, stay with you, or quietly drift away. Western psychology refers to this as affective presence, the emotional atmosphere a person carries with them, which others instinctively feel and respond to. It is not about being happy all the time or masking your struggles with artificial positivity. Rather, it is about your baseline state of being. Are you generally grounded or anxious? Are you calm or reactive? Do people feel safe and uplifted in your presence? Or do they feel they must guard themselves, walk on eggshells, or manage your emotional state for you? To cultivate the kind of energy that draws people in, you must begin by noticing your default energetic state when you are alone. This is the version of you that no one sees. When you are sitting quietly, when nothing external demands your attention, what thoughts emerge? What feelings arise? If you're constantly carrying stress, fear, resentment, or unhealed pain, this becomes the energetic frequency you emit. Even if you try to hide it, people may not consciously detect it, but they will sense something is off. Their nervous systems will respond instinctively. They may feel drained, tense, or uneasy around you without knowing why. In contrast, someone who has done the inner work to process their emotions, regulate their nervous system, and stay centered brings with them a calming, magnetic presence. This is what Eastern traditions refer to as Shen, or spirit. When your spirit is calm and bright, it draws others into a field of peace. I once met a woman who worked as a hospice nurse. She was not loud or charismatic, but there was something extraordinary about her presence. When she walked into a room, patients would visibly relax. Families would begin to cry, not because she said something, but because she made them feel safe enough to release their pain. When I asked her how she managed to carry such stillness in such a heavy environment, she said, "I don't fight death. I don't resist grief. I let everything move through me. That way, I don't get stuck, and neither do the people around me." Her words echo a deep truth. Your energy is not defined by what you feel, but by how freely you allow those feelings to move through you. Resistance creates blockages. Acceptance creates flow, and that flow is what makes your energy feel clean, calm, and open. In relationships, the energy you bring into connection matters more than your intentions. You may love deeply, but if your energy is filled with anxiety, control, or emotional volatility, others will not feel safe enough to receive that love. Love is not enough when it comes with emotional instability. The heart can only open in the presence of safety. Therefore, to be someone others can fall in love with, you must first become someone who creates energetic safety, not through perfection, but through presence. Consider the story of a man who deeply loved his partner, but constantly feared abandonment. He would frequently check her phone, question her tone, and seek constant reassurance. "Do you still love me?" he would ask, even on good days. Though he claimed to love her, his energy transmitted insecurity, not trust. Eventually, she left. Not because she didn't love him, but because his energy became exhausting. She could not carry his emotional instability along with her own. Love cannot survive when one person must hold the weight of another's unhealed wounds. This is why energy management is not just spiritual practice. It is relational responsibility. Your energy is your offering, And when it is heavy, chaotic, or demanding, others feel the burden of carrying what you haven't yet processed. When it is balanced, warm, and aware, others feel nourished by your presence. Relationships that last are not always built on passion. They are built on the quiet, consistent peace of being around someone who has mastered their inner state. From a physiological standpoint, your nervous system plays a central role in this. When you are anxious or angry, your sympathetic nervous system activates, creating a fight or flight response. Your heart rate increases, your voice becomes sharper, your facial muscles tighten. These micro signals are perceived by others on a subconscious level. Their own nervous systems react accordingly. If they sense danger, even emotional danger, they may unconsciously shut down or distance themselves. In contrast, when your parasympathetic system is active, when you are relaxed, centered, and grounded, your voice softens, your eyes convey warmth, your gestures slow. This signals safety, which invites connection. You don't need to say a word. Your body communicates whether someone can trust you with their emotional world. This is why disciplines like Qigong, breathwork, and mindfulness are not just tools for self-care. They are foundational for healthy relationships. The stillness you cultivate in solitude is what enables you to remain grounded in conflict. The breath you deepen when alone is the breath that steadies you when your partner is overwhelmed. Every moment you spend training your body and mind to return to center becomes a gift to those you love. A young woman once told me about a mentor she admired deeply. She doesn't say much, she explained, but when she looks at you, it's like she sees everything, and somehow you still feel safe. That is the power of conscious energy. It sees without judging. It listens without interrupting. It accepts without trying to control. This is what makes people feel seen, known, and loved. Not what you do, but how you be. So how do we practically begin to shift our energy to become more magnetic, grounded, and trustworthy in relationships? First, we must examine the stories we tell ourselves about love. Many carry subconscious beliefs such as, I am unworthy of lasting love, or, people always leave me. These beliefs shape your energetic baseline, whether you realize it or not. They influence how you show up, whether you're defensive, anxious, or emotionally distant. To shift this, you must first become aware. Notice your inner dialogue. Question its origin. Is this belief truly yours, or was it inherited through pain, trauma, or cultural conditioning? Then, begin to replace these beliefs not with grand affirmations, but with simple truths anchored in the present. I am learning to be safe with myself. I am cultivating the kind of presence I wish to receive. I am not my past. I am who I choose to be now. As you repeat these truths with sincerity, your energy begins to change. Others will not see the words, but they will feel the shift. You will become less desperate for validation, more centered in self-respect. And this energetic self-possession is deeply attractive, not because it tries to be, but because it radiates clarity. We must also become aware of how we speak. Your tone, your pace, your volume, they all transmit energy. When you speak with urgency, people feel pressure. When you speak with bitterness, they feel judgment. But when you speak with calm sincerity, people open. In our tradition, we say that the voice is the breath made visible. A scattered breath leads to a scattered voice. A grounded breath leads to a grounded voice. So begin every meaningful conversation with a breath. Not a shallow, unnoticed inhale, but a conscious, rooted breath from the diaphragm. This simple act will align your mind, body, and intention. And that alignment is what creates coherence in your energy. Another important practice is energetic hygiene. Just as you bathe the body to remove physical residue, you must cleanse your energy to release emotional residue. This can be done through meditation, conscious movement, time in nature, or simply sitting in silence and releasing the day's emotions without clinging to them. If you walk into a relationship conversation filled with the stress of your day, the energy of your past, or the residue of an argument, you bring that weight into the interaction. But if you cleanse your field, if you take even 10 minutes to breathe, release, and return to center, you show up as a new person, one who is fully present, not polluted by what came before. In a world filled with performance, emotional masks, and unhealed wounds, a person who carries clean energy becomes a sanctuary. People may not know why they feel safe around you. They will just know that they do. And in that safety, love begins to flow. I once guided a couple who were struggling with constant arguments. The words changed, but the energy remained the same: reactive, accusatory, impatient. So I asked them to do something simple. For 1 week, before every conversation, they were to sit silently together for 3 minutes. No talking, just breathing. At first, they resisted. "How will this solve anything?" they asked. But after a few days, they reported something curious. The intensity of their arguments softened. Their tone shifted. "We still disagree," the woman said, "but somehow, I don't feel like I need to win anymore. I just want us to stay connected." This is the miracle of energy alignment. When the body is calm and the breath is synchronized, the mind becomes less hostile. And when the mind softens, the heart reopens. You must understand that your energy is your message. Before anyone falls in love with your words, your face, or your mind, they fall in love with how you make them feel. And how you make them feel is not determined by your effort, but by your frequency. If you wish to attract deep, lasting, meaningful love, become a source of peace, presence, and strength. Let your energy become a safe place where others can rest, not because you take their pain, but because you have learned to sit with your own. This journey is not about perfection. You will have days when your energy is scattered, your breath is shallow, your patience is thin. But even on those days, you can return, you can pause, you can choose stillness again. And in doing so, you not only transform your relationships, you transform yourself into someone who is no longer seeking love, but radiating it. In every relationship, there comes a moment when what once felt effortless begins to require effort. The initial fascination fades, the intensity softens, and what's left is no longer just attraction. It is the opportunity for real connection. And it is in this space that many falter, not because they do not care, but because they do not know how to maintain connection when comfort replaces curiosity. The human tendency is to settle into predictability, to grow complacent with the familiar. But the truth is, people do not fall in love with who you were when they met you. They fall in love again and again with who you continue to become. Emotional depth and growth, the ever-unfolding layers of your mind, heart, and spirit, are what sustain intimacy over time. To understand this, we must first look at how the human mind responds to novelty. Neuroscience teaches us that the brain's reward system thrives on newness. During the early stages of love, dopamine levels rise, creating a natural high. Everything about the other person feels fascinating. You notice their laugh, their hand gestures, the way they pause between sentences. But as time passes and routines settle in, the novelty wears off, and with it, the heightened dopamine. This is not a sign that love is gone. It is simply a biological shift from infatuation to familiarity. And familiarity, if left unattended, can breed disinterest. Not because the person has changed, but because you have stopped looking beneath the surface. This is why emotional growth is essential. Growth renews the bond. It keeps the connection alive by offering new dimensions of self to explore, to witness, and to honor. Think of a tree. In spring, it blooms. In summer, it ripens. In autumn, it releases. And in winter, it rests. Yet beneath the surface, it is still growing, its roots deepening, unseen. A relationship that survives the seasons must also grow in quiet and visible ways. And that growth must happen individually and together. Many people expect their partner to remain as they were in the beginning. But to love someone truly is to allow, and even encourage, their evolution. This requires inner security. If your sense of identity depends on the version of your partner you first fell in love with, you will resist their growth. You may fear their change because it threatens your stability. But love that fears growth is not love, it is control. Real love says, "I want to know the new you again and again." Real love is curious, not possessive. It seeks to understand, not to define. I remember a story shared by a woman in her 60s who had been married for over 30 years. She said, "We've fallen out of love with each other many times. But each time, we found our way back. Because we allowed each other to change. He's not the same man I married, and I'm not the same woman. But every time we made space for each other's growth, it was like falling in love with someone new." Her wisdom carries a powerful truth. Relationships stagnate not because people change, but because we stop listening to who they're becoming. To maintain emotional depth in a relationship, you must first commit to your own growth. This means engaging with your fears, your beliefs, your past wounds. It means becoming emotionally literate, able to name your emotions, understand their origins, and communicate them without blame. When you do this, you create a relational environment where emotional safety exists. And emotional safety is the soil where intimacy grows. It also means challenging yourself, learn something new, explore new ideas, read, write, reflect, move your body, stretch your perspectives. When you grow, you become more interesting, not in the superficial sense, but in the energetic one. You carry depth. You bring something to the table that nourishes the connection. And you invite your partner to do the same, not by force, but by inspiration. In traditional Eastern thought, there is the idea of Wu Wei, effortless action. It is not passive, but flowing. In relationship, this means we do not force connection. We cultivate the conditions for it to flourish. One of those conditions is ongoing inner work. The more we understand ourselves, the more fully we can understand and love another. A person who continues to explore their inner world remains emotionally alive, and that aliveness is felt in every interaction. Let us now speak of curiosity, for it is the heartbeat of emotional depth. When you stop being curious, you start making assumptions. You believe you know all there is to know about your partner. You stop asking questions. You stop listening deeply. But no one remains the same. Even in one day, a person experiences hundreds of thoughts, emotions, and shifts in awareness. To keep love alive, you must remain a student of the one you love, not just of their outer life, but their inner world. What are they afraid of now? What excites them? What beliefs are they questioning? What dreams have changed? These are not things you learn once. They must be relearned again and again. A man once told me about his divorce. He said, "She didn't leave because of someone else. She left because I stopped seeing her. I stopped asking her how she was feeling. I assumed we were fine because there were no fights. But the silence grew too loud. And one day, she said she felt alone, even while lying beside me." His voice carried deep regret, not for what he did, but for what he failed to do. Emotional depth is not always about grand gestures. Sometimes, it is simply about paying attention. Presence is the most profound form of love. In practical terms, couples can create rituals of reconnection. A weekly check-in where each person shares what's been on their heart. A quiet evening walk without phones. A shared journal where each writes a reflection the other responds to. These simple practices deepen emotional intimacy. They send the message, "I still want to know you." Emotional depth also requires vulnerability. This is not the same as oversharing. It is about authenticity. Saying, "I feel hurt," rather than hiding behind sarcasm. Saying, "I need support," rather than pretending to be fine. Vulnerability invites closeness, but it must be